Hello, my name is Deanna Bradford, and I started the Doctor of Education in Higher Education program at the University of Liverpool in October 2015, and I'm now in the thesis stage. This is my first presentation of the thesis stage, and I'm currently amongst the data collection and the literature review after receiving ethical approval to conduct research in late summer 2019. A brief background about myself. I received my BA in Spanish and Russian Studies in 2010 and an MA in Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages in 2013, after which I spent a few years in Japan teaching at a university in Nagoya, mainly academic English, topic-based English, and teacher training. I then went to Ireland, where I currently reside, where I did program coordinating and curriculum design for a language center at a university in Limerick. And again, that was academic English, a lot of topic-based English programs, and providing support for students who were going to be enrolling in programs in which English was a medium of instruction. However, almost 2 years ago, I switched fields and now a project manager for an accounting firm that provides tax services for small to mid-sized companies. This drastic turn of career has actually helped shape my perspective of higher education and has in part inspired this thesis. I entered the project manager position with hardly a trace of knowledge about taxes, but with a growth mindset that I could learn as I go. And so after a few MOOC courses and many Google searches later, I was completing tax returns for C corporations, conducting research on complex tax laws, and performing other tasks more suitable for a tax accountant. And this was all within 6 weeks of starting the position. So the ability to apply myself in a new field and learn from non-traditional means opened up further for me that discussion about what higher education really means and what it can look like. Although my experience of learning tax accounting through non-traditional methods inspired part of my thesis topic, I wanted to remain true to what I've spent the majority of my career thus far doing and what I really am passionate about, which is providing support for non-native English-speaking students. I began to look deeper at how I can combine these two interests, which ultimately led me to my exploration of other non-traditional programs used to upskill an individual and how non-native English speakers cope as students of them. This ultimately led me to coding boot camps and the support given to non-native English-speaking students enrolled in them. In brief, coding boot camps are short, intensive courses that teach its students coding with the main purpose of future employment. These coding boot camps, despite only being around for 10 years now, are gaining rapidly in popularity for a variety of reasons, which I'll be adding to my thesis. But in short, they emerged from a combination of a rapid increase of jobs in the tech industry, the affordability or lack thereof of undergraduate degree programs in universities, not to mention time constraints and the need for a quick fix. One of the main themes for this research study is the unbundling of higher education. I wasn't actually aware of this term until my secondary supervisor introduced it to me shortly after our matching process for the thesis, but it fits perfectly with my thesis topic, as unbundling is the stripping down of non-essential elements typically found on the university campus, in which all that is left is the basics for a program. This removal of unnecessary elements like sports programs and clubs, or on-campus comforts like cafes, or even minimizing or condensing the content taught in within a degree program. It creates shorter and more affordable programs. There's a lot of literature around unbundling, particularly after the emergence of MOOCs, due to their accessibility and affordability. And if you aren't familiar with MOOCs, it stands for Massive Open Online Courses. Coursera is a great example of a MOOC platform. They offer so many varied courses for varied purposes, from just sheer interest in a topic to professional development to an actual online degree that you can get now. I highly recommend trying out a course. I'm actually taking a course on paleontology right now because my son is obsessed with dinosaurs. And as I mentioned before, I got a specialization in U.S. corporate tax law through Coursera. So really the possibilities, I'd say, are endless. And unbundling connects with coding boot camps because coding boot camps are an example of an unbundled program. They are a condensed version of some of the curriculum you would see in a computer science undergraduate degree program, with the content being the skills a graduate would need to get employment as a programmer. So the Lit Review will discuss the emergence of these coding boot camps and why any individual may choose to take this intensive, unbundled program as opposed to pursuing another option like computer science undergrad degree. For the Lit Review, I'll also explore internationalization and its effect on higher education in the Lit Review. I also am working on connecting unbundling with internationalization, and I'll explore how the two interact. In connection with this as well is learning the literature on internationalization and English as a medium of instruction, because, as I mentioned before, the coding boot camps are, the majority of them are taught in English. So English as a medium of instruction would be applicable here. Other themes that have emerged that are maybe a little more obvious, as they are in the title of the thesis, are concepts of support and satisfaction. So the literature review will also explore how research defines these terms and how they will be conveyed accurately in this study, and also why it's important to understand the satisfaction of the students enrolled in these programs and how it might affect their performance. And really discovering other research conducted on the support to and satisfaction of non-native English-speaking students who are enrolled in unbundled programs. And I've played around with a little with other themes for the Lit Review, but these are really the main ones. My approach is to build a conceptual framework for the Lit Review that is meant to be adapted and to develop as I continue the research. So I'm trying to stay open. As for the methodology, for this study, I've taken the lens of a social constructivist. I chose this lens because my role is to ultimately understand how my participants perceive their experiences. And these experiences that I ask them to recall involves other people that they have interacted with. And my positionality is as an outside researcher who happens to have a fair amount of experience in the area of study. I find this fitting as there won't be any ethical considerations with relationships with the participants because I'm an outside researcher. But having worked in similar programs in the past, I can anticipate what the participants' responses may be. For the data collection, I'm using mixed methods for the study with a qualitative, semi-structured interview and a Likert scale survey. The interviews are being conducted with employees of varying roles in coding boot camps, as they can provide in-depth knowledge about the programs that they offer and their understanding of student satisfaction and performance. The surveys are for non-native English-speaking students who have completed a coding bootcamp course. The survey asks questions about the student satisfaction with the amount of language support they received or didn't receive, and whether they wanted more support. Questions like that. And the interviews will use thematic analysis, and the surveys, as I mentioned before, will mainly be Likert scale, but there is an opportunity for the participant to fill in any added information that they think important at the end, but it's not a requirement, it's optional. Based on the extensive reading that I've done thus far on coding bootcamps, I don't anticipate there being much added support for students whose native language isn't English. I've yet to see it. However, I know that these programs are incredibly rigorous and difficult to complete. I wouldn't be surprised if non-native English-speaking students reported a lack of support in this area and a desire for more support. However, the nature of an unbundled program seeks to dissect until the student receives only the basic needs to learn and to complete a program. So some of the questions that I want to answer through this thesis are, to what extent should unbundling really occur? And how does someone like a program director of a coding bootcamp determine what is essential and in an unbundled program? And particularly for those who have specific needs, like non-native English-speaking students may have. So that is, in a nutshell, what my thesis is about. And of course, it's a work in progress. But I would love to receive any feedback that you may have, or if you have any questions or comments. I'm very interested in hearing them, and I very much look forward to our online discussion. There are some areas that I would particularly like your insights. First, I haven't really focused my research on one geographical location. I've only really focused on coding bootcamps in which English is the medium of instruction. And that will range, there's a lot of countries that offer that. And so so far my searches for data collection haven't been restricted to one country, although I do find that the United States, perhaps because I'm from there, that's where a lot of my data will probably end up coming from. So, what do you think about this? Should I narrow this focus a little bit more, and does it have to be in one specific geographical location, or can I keep it open like I want to? I'd love to hear your insights on that. Another consideration is if there might be anything missing from my literature review. I mentioned my kind of basics of my conceptual framework, but as I mentioned, there's other elements that I am thinking, I could add that, or maybe it's not necessary. Maybe from your perspective, do you think that there's something that I could be adding? Or in other sections of the thesis as well. I'd love your input. I'm always looking to see if there might be an element missing in my thesis. So I really look forward to our online discussions, and I so appreciate you watching this video, and have a good day.